Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to another 5 Points review here on the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I break down the thematic and mechanical things you need to know about a game into 5 points. Today, I am taking a look at Transformers, a deck building game from Renegade Game Studios. Also, we got some expansions, the Dawn of the Dinobots with the Dinobots and Devastator. We got the infiltration scenario with my man Six Shot. And of course, we need some Decepticons in there, the first big box expansion that features Megatron et al. And so I will answer the following questions. If you are not familiar with the Transformers IP at all, is there enough for you here? Especially in terms of the deck building, how does it compare to other cooperative adventure-based deck builders? Will it make longtime fans of the IP happy? Full disclosure, I am a fan of Transformers. Disclosure, I was provided a review copy of the base game and all the expansions for coverage here on the channel. My number 5, a bit of a con, which is that the game modes, the competitive, cooperative, and team versus team, developed in a way that's a little bit confusing. So in the basic game, they offered you cooperative play and competitive play where individuals competed. And yet they only offered the Autobots to play. So that competitive mode just didn't make sense to me from a thematic perspective. Why are Optimus Prime and Ironhide and Bumblebee competing for points and being the best Autobot? Just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Gameplay wise, it worked. The cooperative really worked. The cards lent themselves to both styles of play mechanically, so even though I had my bugaboos with the competitive, it was okay in the base game. The expansions, beginning with Rise of Darkness and continuing on to the Infiltration and the Dinobot expansions, fleshed out the team versus team. Now you could play a squad of Decepticons versus a squad of Autobots, which is the way it should have been probably the whole time. So I'm wondering why that wasn't included in the basic set in some way. However, the way they introduced all that team versus team play is that they kind of messed up some of the cooperative play. So I'm showing some cards from the expansion right here. You got Bombshell, where you target a player and discard a card. In cooperative, there are no other players that I want to discard a card. There's no exception over here that says, in cooperative play, do this. So to punish and enslave, attacking, I'm discarding allies or stealing allies from people. You may attack other players. There's too many of those cards that are only good in the competitive and team versus team in the expansions. This is the one-stop co-op shop. In cooperative play, I just want to be able to shuffle and deal without having to kind of mold a deck with the cooperative. Doesn't really give you the resources to do so. So I'm going to have to go a missed opportunity for solo and co-op gamers who wanted to enjoy the expansions as much as we enjoyed the original. My number 4, a clear pro, is the variety of characters that are available to you and how the powers on the characters create the replayability you want in a game like this. So the central market tends to be pretty static, whether you're playing the base game or if you're playing with a one full expansion set. You're going to see a lot of the cards that do similar things over different plays. The characters are the way in which you can interact with everything differently. So you have Optimus Prime, you get the transform side. Each Autobot you play gives a power. Autobots are a certain kind of card. You want to go for those. Ironhide will you ignore the Autobots for the most part, and you get cards with block, which tends to be either maneuvers or technologies. Go for those cards. Do you want to load up your deck with powerful cards? Do you want to call a lot and have a thin deck? Through the characters, you can explore those different kinds of strategies. As you get into the expansions especially, there are a ton of different options for you, and this is just the Autobots. Check out all the Decepticons that are available. The base game has a healthy amount of these, and then as you get into the expansions, you get even more. Lots of different play styles, a clear pro for me. My number 3, a mix, which is the combat resolution system. So as you adventure around the Matrix, you're going to encounter 2 different types of adversaries. The first are regulars, like Laserbeak over here. You just land on them, they will ambush you, and they will pull cards from the encounter deck. I like the encounter deck. Varies up how they will attack you. You have to prepare for multiple contingencies. That's well done. The bosses are mostly the same. They just happen to add a reveal attack system and then some kind of ongoing pressure they put on you. So you get out there and you don't want them to stay out there. So you have to deal with them pretty quickly. Once you've initiated the combat, especially with the bigger bosses, then it gets a little bit hairy for me. So generally, your character is going to play their whole hand and add up their whatever energy they have. And then other characters can do what the game calls assist. If they have a card that's within range, they can dedicate that card and say, I'm assisting you. In co-op, it's okay, but just there's a lot of numbers flying around. The boss will do some kind of bigger attack, which will mess with your cards, mess with the arithmetic. Adding that up can slow the game down a little bit, and not in like a climatic way. So in cooperative, it's rough, but I guess I'll take it. In the team versus team play, whoa. Because enemies can also contribute. Either they can contribute and try to get their own rewards, or they could do what's called a defensive assist. Man, the game slows down to a halt too much for me. I wish they could have found a cleaner way to resolve combats. My number 2 is the way the deck building plays out in this game. It is Transform the deck building game, so we got to comment on that specifically. When it comes to deck builders, I think the tendency is, I'm going to get cards that I need, I'm going to build combos, and eventually I'm going to have these end turns where I'm going to, fire off combos, play a bunch of cards, etc. That is not how this game plays out in the slightest. So the reason is because of the avatar. You gotta move in order to get the cards that you want, and you might not have enough movement or power to do so. So let's say I am playing Optimus Prime all the way over there, and I only have a couple of move on my area. So I want this card that is an Autobot. Ugh, Jazz, I really want to have you in my deck. Sorry, sir, and no one else can buy me for you either. I'm just gonna be sitting here. Wow, that is a very difficult thing when there's a clear card that would be great for you, but you can't get it just because of the move aspect. So, obviously the go-to is to, acquire cards that are near you. You look like you have a lot of options. However, you'll have this thing happen where you'll try to look for a card. It won't be a card that will go in your deck. It will be an enemy. Defeating enemies is cool, but if I'm spending my whole time defeating enemies and not building my hand, then I'm a little bit boned, especially in the late game. I'm getting in your way, Laserbeak. I will go back to you, Megatron. Good job, Laserbeak. So that's a difficulty. And finally, if you're playing cooperative, there are going to be these side mission cards. The way you resolve them is to contribute cards out of your hand with a certain amount of power or something else. So you buy the cards, the cooperative scheme comes up, you're giving away the cards. What are we doing? How can I possibly say that this is enjoyable deck building, Jason? Well, let me tell you how it can be of use. Think in terms more of a tactical paradigm than a strategic one. So you get cards, and the cards are generally universally useful. So if you get a 4-cost card or a 5-cost card, chances are you're getting something that you can use, even if the power isn't ideal for you. Also, it encourages kind of thinking on your feet. Maybe you didn't get the card that matches up with your character, but there's a good power. You could use it in a different way, and it gives you resources to do what the game wants you to do, which isn't explode your combo, but have enough to defeat bosses. The game does give you enough to do that. So maybe you didn't do exactly what you wanted to do with your character, but as long as you're beating bosses, I think the deck building is effective for what it does. My number 1, anyone who knows me as a reviewer will not be surprised by this. It is the theme of the game, specifically the emergent narrative, what I refer to as those bits of story moment that come out of the individual little moves in the game. All that is a clear pro for me. So on a high level, just out of the characters, you have your bot side, you get more movement out of it, your car driving around, and then you could transform to your that robot side, which can do different effects and fight and all that. So then you get into those encounters, which just makes so much thematic sense. I'm going to move over. Laserbeak, get out of here, you dumb cassette. Got no time for you. Megatron, it's over for you, Prime. One shall stand, one shall fall. I got your back, Prime. I got your back. We're over here. Spike, what are you doing here? I can help you from the rear. I got goosebumps, people. I've had so many moments in this game of climactic combat. The encounters are so memorable. Holy moly, a clear pro. Clearly, as you can see from that final point, I am tickled pink by the theme integration of this game. It is not just pasted on. The game does so much to bake in, layer in the different aspects of the Transformers, really bring that IP alive, both in the overall presentation and in those little thematic moments that arise, especially towards the end of the game. I thought that was so well done and really services me and what I'm looking for as a gamer. However, there are different people who want to approach things differently, especially when it comes to the deck building. When it comes to cooperative adventure, maybe people think of like an Aeon's End type scenario where you're building up and you're firing off these huge combos. The damage system, the combat system is much more prescribed. You can only get so powerful. So, you still get enough to beat the bosses. And I think there's enough tactical play there where it rewards a genuine decision. It isn't just like, okay, scraping by. But I think that I can see players get frustrated, oh, I have this card, I got to give it away because of this scheme, or, this doesn't fit with my strat. Yeah, I could see people having a rough time there. I was also quite surprised by how much of a difficult time I had with newer players, especially when it came to that conflict resolution. The game ground to a halt. It's just like a multi-step process. You want to keep the action flowing with people who are familiar with the IP, who might not be as versed in these modern games. So a little bit of a difficulty there as well. So all in all, this game, I feel, has to find its audience, and I hope that I've given enough information to figure out if you are in that audience or not. This is Jason with the One Stop Co-op Shop, reminding you that we'll see you at the next stop.